I'm Juniper Thorne, 32, and I built a multi-million-dollar logistics empire from the ashes of a discarded medical degree. The mahogany table feels like a sheet of ice under my palms. I stare at the signature on the document, and my vision blurs for a split second. Julian Vance sits across from me, his legs crossed with an arrogance that makes my stomach churn. The boardroom is silent, save for the hum of the air conditioning and the frantic thudding of my heart against my ribs. I can feel the sweat slicking my palms against the polished wood of the table. "It's over, Juniper," he says, his voice a low, smooth purr that masks a predator's intent. He doesn't just want the contract. He wants to see me break. He wants to watch the empire I built brick by brick crumble into dust. I look up, meeting his ice blue eyes, and I see the reflection of a decade-old grudge. The way he looks at me tells me he hasn't forgotten the night I walked away from his family's expectations. He hasn't forgotten the way I chose my own path over the one he tried to dictate for me when we were younger. My chest feels tight, like a band of iron is slowly constricting my lungs. I can smell his cologne, sandalwood, and expensive leather, and it suffocates me. This contract was the culmination of 3 years of relentless work. It was the bridge that would have taken Thorne Logistics global. Now it's a weapon he's using to slit my throat. I see the way his lip curls in a half smile. He knows exactly what this does to me. He knows I put every cent I had back into the company to secure this deal. He knows I'm leveraged to the hilt. I try to swallow, but my throat is a desert. My fingers twitch, wanting to reach out and tear that paper to shreds. But I don't move. I keep my spine straight, even though I feel like I'm collapsing inside. "You think this makes us even?" I ask, my voice steadier than I feel. Julian laughs, a short, dry sound that contains no warmth. "Even?" he repeats, leaning forward until I can see the flecks of gold in his irises. "Juniper, I'm just getting started." The air in the room feels heavy, laden with the weight of our shared history. I remember the medical degree I left behind, the white coat I folded up and put away when I realized I couldn't breathe in a hospital. I traded the stethoscope for shipping containers and spreadsheets. I thought I had escaped the shadow of his world. I was wrong. He's been tracking me like a hunter in the tall grass, waiting for the moment I was most vulnerable. I look down at my hands. The nails are bitten down, a nervous habit I thought I'd conquered years ago. I feel a hot surge of anger bubbling up beneath the fear. It starts in my gut and radiates outward to my fingertips. I won't give him the satisfaction of seeing me cry. I won't let him see the panic that is currently clawing at the back of my throat. I pull my hands off the table and fold them in my lap. The leather of my chair creaks, a small sound that feels like a scream in the quiet room. Julian watches my every move, savoring the destruction. He thinks he's won. He thinks he's finally settled the score for the way I rejected his family's influence. But he has no idea that the medical skills I abandoned are the only reason his world hasn't stopped turning yet. He doesn't know about the secret I've been carrying for months. He doesn't know about his mother's condition. He just sees a rival he finally managed to crush. He stands up, buttoning his charcoal blazer with slow, deliberate movements. "Pack your things, Juniper," he says, his eyes cold as a winter morning. "I'll have my team come by on Monday to finalize the takeover." He turns to walk away, his heels clicking rhythmically against the marble floor. Each click feels like a nail being driven into the coffin of my career. I watch his back, my breath coming in shallow, jagged gasps. I want to shout. I want to tell him he's a monster. Instead, I just sit there, frozen in the wreckage of my life's work. The silence that follows his exit is deafening. I am alone in a room that used to represent my greatest triumph. Now it's just a tomb. I feel the first tear prick at the corner of my eye, hot and stinging. I blink it away fiercely. I am Juniper Thorn, I don't break, even when the world is crashing down around my ears. I look at the empty doorway where he stood. The war isn't over, he just thinks it is. I reach into my bag and touch the medical file I've been hiding. The paper is crisp and real. He's taking my business, but I'm the only one holding the lifeline for the person he loves most. The irony tastes like copper in my mouth. I stand up, my legs trembling but holding firm. I have to decide if I'm going to be the person he thinks I am or the person I actually became. He wants to ruin me, but he's about to find out that I'm the only thing standing between him and a devastating loss. I walk to the window and look down at the city. The lights are flickering on as the sun sets. My empire might be bleeding, but I still have the hands of a healer. And those hands are about to change everything. I'm Juniper Thorn, 32, and I built a multi-million-dollar logistics empire from the ashes of a discarded medical degree. The cold glass of my office window feels like ice against my forehead. I press my skin harder against the pain, hoping the chill will numb the frantic heat rising in my neck. Below me, the city of Chicago is a blur of gray slush and indifferent commuters. They don't know that the world is ending on the 42nd floor. I watch the giant digital ticker on the building across the street. My company name, Thorn Logistics, is scrolling in bright, aggressive red. The numbers next to it are tumbling, down 20%, down 30%. It's a free fall. I turn my head slightly to look at the television mounted on my office wall. The news anchor's voice is a low drone, but the headline at the bottom of the screen screams at me. Logistics mogul Juniper Thorn accused of massive fraud, falsified shipping manifests, allegations of shell companies. It's a masterpiece of fiction. Julian Vance's masterpiece. My heart hammers against my ribs like a trapped bird. I can feel the pulse thrumming in my ears, a rhythmic, deafening beat. I reach for the edge of my mahogany desk to steady myself. The wood is smooth and expensive, a symbol of everything I've sacrificed for. I sacrificed my residency. I sacrificed my sleep. I sacrificed my youth. And now Julian is burning it all down because I dared to outshine him. My phone vibrates on the desk. The sound is like a gunshot in the silent room. I don't want to pick it up. I know what's coming. I see the name Marcus, head of legal. My hand shakes as I swipe the screen. Juniper, Marcus says, and his voice sounds like it's coming from the bottom of a well. Don't say anything, just listen. How bad is it? I ask. My voice is a thin, reedy thing I don't recognize. The SEC is already moving, Marcus says. I hear him shuffling papers on the other end. Julian didn't just leak the documents to the press. He sent a verified dossier to the federal authorities. They've flagged every one of your accounts for suspicious activity. Juniper, they've frozen everything. The air leaves my lungs in a sharp hiss. Everything, personal, corporate, the offshore reserves for the expansion. Everything is locked tight, Marcus says. You can't move a cent. I'm trying to get an emergency hearing, but with the fraud allegations hitting the news simultaneously, the judge is going to be hesitant. I sink into my leather chair. My legs feel like they've turned to water. I am a woman who controls a fleet of 2,000 trucks and 5 cargo ships, and I can't even buy a sandwich right now. The irony is a bitter, metallic taste in the back of my throat. He's winning, Marcus, I whisper. We're fighting, Juniper. Stay in your office. Don't talk to the press. The line goes dead. I stare at the phone. A notification pops up, an email from my bank. Account status restricted. Another one. Credit line suspended. It's a calculated surgical strike. Julian knows exactly where my pressure points are. He knows I poured every liquid asset I had into the new European hub. He knows I'm leveraged. He's not just trying to hurt me, he's trying to erase me. I stand up and pace the length of the room. My heels click against the hardwood, a sharp, frantic sound. I catch my reflection in the mirror behind the door. My face is pale, my eyes wide and shadowed. I look like the girl I was 10 years ago, standing in the hospital hallway after I'd made the decision to quit. The girl who was told she would never amount to anything without the Vance family's backing. I remember the look on Julian's face when I walked away from the engagement. It wasn't heartbreak. It was a cold, simmering fury. He saw me as an asset he'd lost control of. He's been waiting a decade for this moment. I walk over to my bookshelf and pull out a heavy, leather-bound medical text. I haven't opened it in years. I flip to the back where a thin, white envelope is tucked into the sleeve. I pull it out and slide the documents onto my desk. These aren't logistics reports. They are lab results. They are cardiac scans. They belong to Julian's mother, Evelyn. 2 weeks ago, I ran into her at a charity gala. She looked frail. She looked like she was fading. My medical instincts, the ones I thought I'd buried, screamed at me. I saw the slight blue tint to her fingernails. I heard the faint, rasping catch in her breath. I used my old connections to get her into a routine screening under the guise of a corporate wellness initiative. She doesn't know. Julian doesn't know. The scans show a rare, aggressive valve deterioration. Without a very specific, very risky surgical intervention, one that only a handful of surgeons in the world can perform, she has 3 months, maybe less. And the only person who knows how to navigate that specific medical circle, the only person who has the personal cell phone number of the lead surgeon in Switzerland, is me. I look at the television again. Julian is being interviewed now. He's standing in front of his own headquarters, looking stoic and concerned. "It's a tragedy for the industry," he says to the cameras. His eyes are like chips of blue ice. He looks directly into the lens, and I know he's looking at me. He thinks he's destroyed my life. He's smiling inside, savoring the moment he finally broke Juniper Thorne. I feel a strange, cold calm wash over me. The panic attack recedes, replaced by a sharp, focused clarity. My accounts are frozen. My reputation is in tatters. My employees are terrified. But I hold the one thing Julian Vance values more than power. I reach for my desk phone. I don't call my lawyer. I don't call the press. I dial Julian's private line. It rings once, twice, 3 times. "I wondered how long it would take for you to crawl," Julian says. His voice is smooth, dripping with a satisfaction that makes my skin crawl. "Are you calling to negotiate the surrender, Juniper? It's too late for that." I look down at the medical files on my desk. I trace the outline of his mother's name. "I'm not calling to talk about the business, Julian," I say. My voice is steady now. It's the voice of a surgeon delivering a diagnosis. "I'm calling to talk about your mother, and why you should probably stop trying to ruin me before you realize I'm the only person who can keep her heart beating." There is a long, heavy silence on the other end of the line. The arrogance in his breathing falters. "What are you talking about?" he snaps, the mask slipping. "Check your email, Julian," I say. "I just sent you a file. I suggest you read it before you finish that press conference. Because while you were busy trying to take my empire, I was the only one noticing that yours is about to lose its foundation." I hang up. My hands are still shaking, but the fire in my chest has turned to steel. He wants a war. I've spent my life learning how to save lives and how to destroy them. Julian Vance is about to learn that you never, ever try to break a woman who knows exactly where the heart is. I'm Juniper Thorne, 32, and I built a multi-million-dollar logistics empire from the ashes of a discarded medical degree. The chandelier light above me is aggressive. It shatters against the thousands of crystal droplets, casting jagged diamond-shaped shadows across the ballroom of the Drake Hotel. I can feel the weight of every eye in the room. They aren't looking at my vintage Dior gown. They are looking at a walking corpse. The news of the SEC investigation has traveled faster than a virus. I am the scandal of the season. I grip my silver clutch so hard the metal frame bites into my palm. Inside that clutch is a folded piece of paper. It is the cardiac report for Evelyn Vance. It is a death sentence. It is also my only leverage. The air in the room is cloying. It smells of expensive lilies and the metallic tang of chilled champagne. I take a step forward, my heels clicking like a countdown on the marble floor. I see the elites of Chicago whispering behind their gloved hands. They see a fraud. They see a woman who climbed too high and is finally falling. Then I see him. Julian Vance is standing at the center of a circle of power. He looks like a god of industry. His tuxedo is blacker than a moonless night. He is holding a glass of scotch, the amber liquid catching the light. He is laughing. It is a rich, warm sound that makes my stomach twist into a knot. He looks up, our eyes lock. The laughter dies on his lips. He doesn't look away. He hands his glass to a passing waiter without breaking eye contact. He begins to move toward me. The crowd parts for him like he's the tide. My heart is a frantic, trapped bird in my chest. It beats against my ribs with a violence that makes me dizzy. I want to turn and run into the cold Chicago night. I want to hide in my darkened office and pretend this isn't happening. But I am a thorn. I stand my ground as he stops inches from me. The heat radiating off his body is overwhelming. He is taller than I remember, more imposing. His presence fills the space until I can't breathe. "You have a remarkable amount of courage, Juniper," he says. His voice is a low, dangerous velvet. It vibrates in the air between us. Or perhaps it's just delusion, he adds. "I'm not a coward, Julian," I say. My voice is thin, but it doesn't shake. "I didn't do what they're saying, you know that. You planted those files." He doesn't deny it. He doesn't even blink. Instead, he moves closer. He reaches out and grabs my upper arm. His fingers are like iron bands. He doesn't hurt me, but the grip is absolute. It is a claim. It is a warning. He pulls me toward the edge of the ballroom near a heavy velvet curtain. "Let go of me," I hiss. He ignores me. He leans down, his lips brushing against the shell of my ear. His breath is warm, smelling of peat and smoke. "You think this is about a shipping contract," he whispers. The bile rises in my throat. It is hot and acidic. I try to pull away, but his grip tightens. "You think I spent 3 years infiltrating your board and 6 months falsifying your manifests just to win a market share?" I look at him. His eyes are no longer the cool blue I remember from our youth. They are burning with a raw, jagged hatred that makes my blood run cold. "10 years ago, Juniper," he says. The words are like stones dropping into a deep well. "The Thorne-Vance merger," he continues. "Do you even remember it, or were you too busy playing doctor to notice your father was a butcher?" My mind flashes back. I was 22. I was buried in anatomy textbooks. I remember my father coming home with a bottle of 100-year-old cognac. I remember him saying the Vances were finally handled. "My father didn't just lose his company that night," Julian whispers, his voice cracking with a decade of suppressed rage. "He lost his mind. He lost his dignity. He sat in his study for 3 days and then he put a bullet in his heart." The room spins. The music of the string quartet becomes a distorted screech in my ears. "I watched them carry him out in a black bag," Julian says. And I watched your father buy a yacht with the money he stole from us. I made a promise that day. I promised I would wait until you were at your peak. I promised I would wait until you had everything to lose. He leans back just enough to look me in the eye. His face is a mask of pure, calculated vengeance. I'm not just going to bankrupt you, Juniper. I'm going to erase you. I'm going to take every cent, every ship, and every scrap of your reputation until you are exactly what my father was. Nothing. I feel the color drain from my face. My skin feels clammy. The hatred radiating from him is a physical force. It is misplaced. It is a fire built on a foundation of lies I didn't even know existed. Julian, I whisper, I didn't know. I had nothing to do with that. It doesn't matter, he says. You are his legacy, and I am the one who ends it. He releases my arm with a suddenness that makes me stumble. He adjusts his cuffs, his movements precise and calm. The monster has retreated back behind the mask of the billionaire. I reach for my clutch. I feel the paper inside. I want to scream at him. I want to tell him that while he was busy planning my destruction, his mother was dying. I want to tell him that the butcher's daughter is the only person who spent the last 6 months researching a way to save Evelyn's heart. But the words die in my throat. The irony is a heavy, suffocating weight. He is destroying the only person who can help him. He looks at me one last time. There is no mercy in his gaze, only a cold, satisfied hunger. Goodbye, Juniper, he says. Try not to make a scene when the feds arrive at your door tomorrow morning. He turns and walks back into the light. I stand in the shadows of the velvet curtain, my heart hammering against my ribs. My arm stings where he held me. The bile is still there, a bitter reminder of the war I didn't know I was fighting. He thinks he's the architect of my ruin. He doesn't realize he's the architect of his own greatest tragedy. I pull the medical file from my bag and look at the name at the top. Evelyn Vance. I have a choice. I can let him burn my world and watch his crumble in return, or I can be the doctor I was trained to be. I look at his retreating back. The war has only just begun. I'm Saffron Sterling, 34, and I just traded a corner office overlooking the Chicago skyline for a windowless locker room that smells of industrial bleach and desperation. The tape gun makes a jagged, screaming sound as I pull it across the top of my final box. It is the only sound in a room that used to vibrate with the energy of 100 employees. Now the silence is heavy. It sits on my shoulders like a wet wool coat. I look down at my hands. They are shaking. I am not a CEO anymore. I am a liability. Julian Vance didn't just take my company, he took the very air out of my lungs. I reach for a stray pen on the mahogany surface, the one with my initials engraved in gold. My fingers hover, I leave it there. It belongs to a woman who no longer exists. I lift the cardboard box. The bottom is cold and slightly damp from a spilled latte I didn't bother to clean up. The weight of it surprises me. My entire life, my entire legacy, fits into 24 cubic inches of corrugated paper. I walk toward the door. My heels click against the marble floor, but the sound isn't commanding today. It's hollow. Every office I pass is empty. My staff is gone, scattered to the winds by the scandal Julian orchestrated. The ones who stayed until the end couldn't even look me in the eye when the federal agents arrived. I reach the elevator. The silver doors reflect a ghost. My hair is pulled back so tight it hurts. My skin is the color of parchment. I press the button for the lobby. The descent feels like a fall from a cliff. My stomach drops, a sickening lurch that makes me want to heave. The lobby is worse. The security guards, men I used to buy Christmas hams for, stand like statues. They don't offer to help with my box. They don't say goodbye. They just watch. I can feel their pity. It's a hot, oily film on my skin. I push through the revolving doors and the Chicago wind hits me like a slap. It's biting, it's honest. I don't have a car waiting for me. The lease was terminated yesterday. My bank accounts are frozen. The Thorn name, the one I fought so hard to polish, is now a brand of poison. I walk 3 blocks to the subway station, the box digging into my hip. People jostle past me. I am invisible. I am just another woman with a box, another casualty of the city. The apartment is the next thing to go. I spend 3 days in the dark watching the headlights of cars dance across my ceiling. I have nothing left but a medical license I haven't used in 8 years and a secret I'm carrying like a live grenade. Julian thinks he won. He thinks he's left me with nothing. He's wrong. I pack a smaller bag. I leave the Dior gowns and the designer heels in the closet. I grab my old stethoscope. I grab the file on Evelyn Vance. I take a bus to the outskirts of the city, to a neighborhood where the streetlights flicker and the air smells of exhaust and deep fryer grease. St. Jude's Urgent Care is a squat brick building with a neon sign that hums with a persistent, dying buzz. I walk inside. The air is thick with the smell of old cigarettes and floor wax. I'm here about the night shift position, I tell the woman behind the plexiglass. She doesn't look up from her computer. Name? Saffron Miller, I say. The name feels strange in my mouth. Miller, my mother's maiden name, a shield, a shroud. You got your credentials, Miller? I slide my medical license across the counter. My heart is a frantic drum against my ribs. If she looks too closely, if she recognizes my face from the morning news, it's over. She glances at the paper, then at me. Her eyes are tired. She doesn't see a disgraced mogul. She sees a woman who looks like she's seen a ghost. Locker 42, she grunts, sliding a set of keys toward me. Scrubs are in the bin, don't be late. We get the trauma overflows from the downtown hospitals when they're at capacity. I walk into the locker room, it's small. The fluorescent light overhead flickers rhythmically. Blink, blink, blink. I pull on a pair of oversized, scratchy blue scrubs. They are stiff with starch. I tie the drawstring tight. I look at myself in the cracked mirror above the sink. Saffron Sterling is dead. I am Saffron Miller now. I am a ghost in a blue uniform. I am the woman who cleans up the blood and stitches the wounds of people the world has forgot. I pull the stethoscope around my neck. The cold metal touches the back of my neck, sending a shiver down my spine. It feels like a shackle. It feels like a lifeline. I reach into my bag and pull out Evelyn Vance's cardiac report. I stare at the jagged lines of her EKG. Her heart is failing. It's a slow, rhythmic ticking clock. Julian is out there right now, probably drinking a 30-year-old scotch and celebrating my demise. He thinks he's the king of the world. He thinks he's exacted his revenge. He has no idea that every night I sit in this fluorescent purgatory waiting. I am refining the surgical technique that is her only hope. I am studying her pathology like a map of a battlefield. I hear the ambulance sirens in the distance. They are wailing, a high-pitched scream that cuts through the night. The sound gets closer. My adrenaline spikes. My palms go damp. I am a doctor again. Julian Vance broke my life, but I am the only one who can fix the one thing he actually loves. I step out into the hallway as the automatic doors hiss open. The cold wind follows the gurney inside. I am starting from the bottom. I am covered in the scent of antiseptic and cheap coffee, but I am not defeated. I am a predator in a white coat, waiting for the moment the hunter becomes the hunted. Miller. We got a chest pain in room 3. The head nurse yells. I move. My feet are fast. My mind is sharp. He wanted me to be nothing, but I'm about to become his everything. I'm Saffron Sterling, 34, and I used to command a boardroom of 50 men, but now I'm the only thing standing between a dying woman and the morgue in a clinic that smells like failure. The clock on the wall of St. Jude's is stuck at 3:14 a.m. It has been 3:14 for the last 3 hours. The silence in the hallway is heavy, broken only by the rhythmic, wet sound of a mop hitting the floor 3 rooms down. I am sitting on a plastic chair that digs into my spine. My hands are tucked under my armpits to keep them warm. The heater died in December, then the world breaks open. A siren wails in the distance. It isn't the usual low groan of a city ambulance. This is a piercing, high-frequency scream that gets louder with every heartbeat. It stops abruptly outside. The double doors of the clinic burst open with a sound like a gunshot. The cold night air rushes in, smelling of rain and asphalt. Trauma, we have a female, 64, collapsed at home. An EMT yells. He is running. His boots squeak on the linoleum. Behind him, 2 more men are pushing a gurney. I stand up. My joints pop. My survival instincts, the ones I honed in the cutthroat world of international shipping, snap into place. I am no longer a disgraced CEO. I am a surgeon. Room 1, I shout. My voice is a whip. It carries a command that makes the nurses jump. I meet the gurney halfway. The woman on the bed is pale. Her skin is the color of a guttering candle. She is gasping, a shallow, rattling sound that tells me her lungs are filling with fluid. Her eyes are rolled back in her head. I grab the side of the gurney. My hand brushes hers. Her skin is ice. Vitals, I demand. Pressure is bottoming out, the EMT says. 80/40. Heart rate is 140 and thready. She complained of sudden, tearing chest pain before she lost consciousness. Aortic aneurysm. Ruptured, I feel the familiar rush of adrenaline. It is a cold, sharp blade in my chest. I look down at her face. I stop breathing. The woman has a high, regal forehead. Her jawline is sharp, even in collapse. Her hair is a shock of silver pulled back into a messy knot. I know those features. I have seen them every night in my nightmares, mirrored in the face of the man who destroyed me. This is Evelyn Vance. This is Julian's mother. The world tilts. I feel a wave of nausea so strong I have to grip the metal rail of the bed to stay upright. The irony is a physical weight. I am in a windowless clinic on the edge of the city, hiding from the man who wants to see me in prison, and his mother is dying under my hands. Miller, we need a line. The head nurse screams. She calls me Miller. The name is a lie. Everything about my life right now is a lie. I reach for the clipboard the EMT is holding. My fingers are trembling. I can't stop them. The paper crinkles under my grip. I look at the emergency contact line at the bottom of the intake form. Julian Vance, son. His phone number is written in bold, black ink. Seeing his name is like a physical blow to my stomach. I can almost feel his hands on my arms from that night in the shadows. I can hear his voice telling me he was going to erase me. He succeeded. He took my company. He took my wealth. He took my pride. And now fate has handed me the one thing he can't buy. I look at Evelyn. She moans, a low, guttural sound of agony. Her hand claws at the air, catching the sleeve of my scratchy blue scrubs. Her grip is surprisingly strong. She is fighting. She doesn't know who I am. She doesn't know that her son is a monster. Doctor, the nurse asks. Her voice is cautious. She sees me staring. I look at my hands. They are shaking violently. I can't operate like this. I'm a mess of nerves and hatred and fear. I want to walk away. I want to let the universe finish what Julian started. If she dies, he loses everything. He loses the only person he ever claimed to care about. It would be justice. It would be the perfect revenge. The blood is pooling in her chest. I can see the distension in her neck veins. She has minutes. I look back at the contact form. Julian's name seems to glow on the page. He is probably in a penthouse right now. He is probably sleeping on silk sheets, dreaming of the next way to crush me. I take a deep breath. The air is cold and tastes like copper. I think about the 6 months I spent in a lab researching the exact pathology that is currently killing this woman. I didn't do it for Julian. I did it because I am a doctor. I did it because I save people. The tremor in my hands doesn't go away, so I force it down. I shove it into a dark corner of my mind and lock the door. Get me a central line kit, I say. My voice is steady now. It is the voice of Saffron Sterling, the woman who built an empire from nothing. Call the surgical team at Grace Memorial. Tell them we are coming in hot. I'm not losing her in this hallway. We don't have an ambulance standing by, the nurse says, her eyes wide. Then call a private transport, I snap. Use my name. Tell them it's for Saffron Miller. No, tell them it's for a Vance. I grab a pair of latex gloves from the wall. I snap them onto my hands. The sound is like a starting pistol. I lean over Evelyn. I press 2 fingers to her carotid artery. Her pulse is a faint, dying flutter. I've got you, Evelyn, I whisper. I don't know if I'm saying it to her or to the ghost of the man who ruined me. I grab the scalpel. The cold steel feels right in my hand. It feels like power. Julian Vance tried to erase me. But tonight, I am the only person in the world who can keep his heart from breaking. Let's move. I yell and I start to run. I'm Saffron Sterling, 34, and I used to rule a global shipping empire before Julian Vance turned my name into a curse word in every boardroom from London to Singapore. Now I am standing under a halo of sterile, white LED lights that make the world look bleached and unforgiving. My hands are scrubbed raw. My skin smells of chlorhexidine. I am not Saffron the mogul anymore. I am Saffron the ghost, the surgeon who shouldn't exist, working in a basement theater that the world forgot. The monitor beeps. It is a sharp electronic heartbeat. Beep, beep, beep. It is the only thing keeping me grounded. I look down at Evelyn Vance's head secured in a Mayfield frame. The sight should be horrifying to anyone else, but to me, it is a map. The aneurysm in her chest was just the beginning. The sudden spike in blood pressure had caused a secondary, catastrophic bleed in her brain. I am the only one who saw it coming. I am the only one with the hands steady enough to fix it. I pick up the micro forceps. My fingers are steady now. The tremor I felt in the hallway when I saw Julian's name on the intake form has been cauterized by pure, cold adrenaline. I am a machine made of muscle and memory. I don't think about the fact that the woman on this table is the mother of the man who liquidated my assets and laughed while I lost my home. I don't think about the irony of my current position. I only think about the vessel. The thin, pulsating wall of the artery is the only thing that matters. Microsuction, I say. My voice is a low rasp behind the paper mask. The nurse hands it to me. She doesn't ask questions. She has seen me work for the last few months, and she knows that when I step into this room, the Miller persona vanishes. I am something else, something older, something more dangerous. The clock on the wall says we are at hour 4. My lower back is a pillar of fire. The ache radiates down my thighs, a dull, throbbing reminder that I haven't sat down or sipped water since the sun went down. A drop of sweat rolls down my forehead. It teeters on my eyebrow, heavy and warm, then plunges. It stings my left eye. I blink rapidly, refusing to look away from the surgical field. I can't wipe it. I can't move. One slip of my hand, 1 millimeter of error, and Evelyn Vance never wakes up. If she dies, Julian wins. He gets to be the grieving son. He gets to blame the incompetent clinic. But if she lives, I hold the ultimate power. I find a vessel that is leaking. It is a tiny, angry red tear. I feel my own heart hammer against my ribs, a frantic bird in a cage. Steady. Steady, I guide the clip into place. My vision narrows until the entire universe is just this 1 square inch of human tissue. I squeeze the handle. The clip snaps shut. The monitor's rhythm changes. The frantic beep, beep, beep slows. It becomes a calm, steady march. I let out a breath I feel like I've been holding for a decade. My lungs ache with the expansion. Pressure is stabilizing, the anesthesiologist mutters. He sounds surprised. He didn't expect her to make it this far. Nobody did. I look at the clock again. Hour 5. My eyes are burning, the salt from my sweat making the world blur at the edges. I begin the meticulous process of closing. This is the part that requires the most patience, and I am running on empty. My stomach is cramping with hunger, and my head is beginning to throb with a dehydration headache that feels like a rhythmic pulsing behind my ears. I think about Julian. He is out there. I know he is. I can feel him through the heavy, lead-lined double doors of the OR. He is pacing that hallway. He is probably wearing a suit that costs more than this entire surgical suite. He is probably barking into a phone, demanding the best doctors, unaware that the best is already here, hidden under a cheap blue cap and a fake name. He thinks he destroyed me. He thinks he took everything. But he forgot that he couldn't take my mind. He couldn't take the years of training I went through before I ever touched a shipping manifest. I stitch with the same precision I used to use when negotiating international treaties. Every knot is a testament to my survival. Every suture is a silent message to the man in the waiting room. You missed a spot, Julian. You didn't kill me. You just made me invisible. Sutures, I demand. My hands move in a blur of silver and silk. I am closing the scalp now. The tension in the room has shifted from panic to exhausted. The nurses are leaning against the counters. The air in the OR is heavy with the smell of ozone and dried blood. It is a metallic, cloying scent that sticks to the back of my throat. Finally, I step back. I drop the needle driver into the metal tray. The clang echoes like a gunshot. She's stable, I say. My voice sounds like it belongs to someone else, someone older, someone who has seen the end of the world and decided to keep walking. I strip off my gown. It is heavy with sweat and spotted with blood. I pull off my gloves, the latex snapping against my skin with a sharp, stinging bite. My hands are red and wrinkled from the moisture. They are shaking now. The adrenaline is receding, leaving behind a hollow, shivering vacuum. I walk to the sink and turn the water on. It's cold. I splash it over my face, over the bridge of my nose where the mask left a deep, red dent. I look at myself in the stainless steel reflection of the towel dispenser. My eyes are bloodshot. There is a smudge of blood on my temple. I look like a soldier returning from a war that no one knows is happening. I have saved his mother. I have spent 6 hours in a windowless room, fighting for the life of the only person Julian Vance loves. I have used every ounce of my strength to preserve the heart of the man who broke mine. I grab a paper towel and wipe my face. My movements are slow, heavy with a fatigue that goes deeper than my bones. I have to go out there. I have to walk through those doors and face the monster. I look at my hands one last time. They are the hands of a surgeon. They are the hands of a CEO. And tonight they are the hands that hold Julian Vance's entire world in their grip. I push the swinging doors open. The light in the hallway is yellow and dim. The air is stale. And there he is, Julian. He is sitting on a plastic bench, his head in his hands. His shoulders are slumped. The king of the world looks small. He looks broken. I take a breath. I feel the cold air of the hallway fill my lungs. Mr. Vance, I say. The sound of my voice cuts through the silence. He freezes. He knows that voice. Even after all this time, even in this hellhole of a clinic, he knows exactly who I am. He looks up, and for the first time in my life, I see fear in his eyes. I don't smile. I don't gloat. I just stand there, covered in his mother's blood, and wait for the world to burn. I'm Saffron Sterling, 34, And I once controlled the flow of global trade before Julian Vance stripped my life to the bone and left me for dead. Now my reality is measured in the rhythmic hiss of a ventilator and the metallic tang of blood that has dried beneath my fingernails. The double doors of the operating theater feel heavier than they should as I push them open. My shoulders are locked in a permanent, aching hunch. My feet, clad in thin surgical booties, feel every cold tile of the hospital floor. I am vibrating with a cocktail of exhaustion and a dark, simmering triumph. The surgery lasted 6 hours. For 6 hours, I held the brain of Evelyn Vance in my hands. I felt the pulse of the woman who raised the man who destroyed me. One slip, one intentional tremor, and Julian Vance would be an orphan. But I am not a murderer. I am a surgeon. And I am better than him. The hallway is a tunnel of sickly yellow light. The air here is stagnant, smelling of floor wax and stale coffee. I keep my head down, my chin tucked into the collar of my sweat-soaked scrubs. My surgical mask is still tied tightly across my face, the blue fabric damp with my own breath. My scrub cap is pulled low, hiding the hair I used to spend hundreds of dollars to style for board meetings. I see him before he sees me. Julian is slumped on a plastic chair in the corner of the waiting room. The Julian Vance I knew was a statue of arrogance, sharp suits, perfectly groomed hair, eyes that looked at people like they were line items on a balance sheet. This man is a wreck. His designer tie is hanging loose around his neck like a noose. His white shirt is wrinkled and stained. His head is buried in his hands, his fingers digging into his scalp. He hears my footsteps. He bolts upright. The desperation on his face is a physical blow. He looks at me, but he doesn't see saffron sterling. He sees a savior in stained blue fabric. He sees the only person who can tell him if his world has ended. "Doctor," he gasps. His voice is a ruined shadow of the baritone that used to command rooms. He lunges forward, his movements clumsy. He trips over his own feet and collapses toward me, catching himself on the edge of a nearby table before sliding to his knees. He is literally at my feet. The man who orchestrated the hostile takeover of my life is kneeling on a linoleum floor, looking up at me with tears streaming down his face. "Please," he chokes out. "Please tell me my mother, is she?" I look down at him. My heart is a cold, hard stone in my chest. I feel a flicker of something, not pity, but a profound sense of irony. He is begging for mercy from the woman he showed none to. "She is stable, Mr. Vance," I say. My voice is muffled by the mask, low and clinical. He lets out a sound that isn't human. It's a sob, a howl, and a prayer all rolled into one. He sags against the table, his forehead resting against the cold metal. He's shaking so hard I can hear his teeth chattering. "Thank God," he whispers. "Thank you, oh God, thank you." He reaches out, his hand trembling, trying to grab the hem of my scrub top. I step back out of his reach. The movement is sharp, deliberate. "The aneurysm was complex," I continue, my words like ice cubes falling into a glass. "There was a secondary bleed. I had to perform a craniotomy to relieve the pressure. She is in the recovery wing now. We will know the extent of the neurological impact when she wakes." Julian wipes his eyes with his sleeve, leaving a smudge of grime across his cheek. He looks up at me again, his expression shifting from pure terror to a bewildered kind of gratitude. "You saved her," he says, his voice cracking. "The other doctors said she was gone. They said it was too late. Who are you? I need to know who to thank. I'll give you anything. Name your price. Just tell me your name." I feel a slow, predatory heat rising in my throat. This is the moment. This is the pivot point where the ghost comes back to life. I reach up. My fingers are steady as I catch the elastic loops of the mask behind my ears. I feel the tension snap. I pull the mask down. It hangs around my neck like a discarded skin. Then I reach for my scrub cap. I pull it off in one slow motion, letting my dark hair tumble down over my shoulders. I stand tall, squaring my shoulders, shedding the persona of the weary clinic doctor and stepping back into the skin of the woman he tried to bury. I look him directly in the eye. I don't blink. The color doesn't just leave Julian's face. It's as if his very soul is being drained through his boots. His jaw drops. His eyes widen until the whites show all the way around the irises. He recoils, scrambling backward on the floor like he's seen a demon. Saffron, he whispers, it's not a question, it's a realization of a nightmare. Hello, Julian, I say, my voice is clear now. It's the voice of the woman who used to out-negotiate him in the shipping lanes of the Atlantic. He looks at my hands, the hands that are still stained with his mother's blood. He looks at the sterling name tag I've pinned inside my pocket, visible now that my gown is off. No, he stammers, his head shaking back and forth. No, you were gone, I made sure of it, you were ruined, you were supposed to be nothing. I was never nothing, Julian, I say, stepping toward him. My shadow falls over him, long and dark in the flickering light of the hallway. I was a surgeon long before I was a CEO. You took my company, you took my reputation, you took my home. I lean down, my face inches from his. I can smell the fear coming off him in waves. But tonight, I whisper, I held your mother's life between my thumb and forefinger. I could have let go. I could have watched her fade and no one would have blamed me. It would have been a surgical complication. A tragic end. Julian is hyperventilating now, his chest heaving. He looks at me with a mixture of horror and a sickening, new kind of debt. But I didn't, I say, my voice dropping to a dangerous silkiness. Because I wanted you to know. Every time you look at her, every time she smiles at you or calls your name, you are going to remember me. You are going to remember that the woman you tried to destroy is the only reason your heart is still beating inside your chest. I stand up straight and toss the scrub cap onto his lap. You wanted to know my price, Julian? I ask. I look at the clock on the wall. The sun is starting to rise, bleeding a pale, weak light through the frosted glass of the waiting room windows. I'll be in touch to collect, I say. I turn my back on him and walk toward the exit, my footsteps echoing in the silence of the hospital. I don't look back. I don't need to. I can feel his gaze burning into my spine, and for the first time in 3 years, I feel like I can finally breathe. I'm Saffron Sterling, 34, and I once sat at the head of a billion-dollar shipping empire before Julian Vance burned it to the ground to settle a debt I didn't even owe. The recovery room is a tomb of white light and rhythmic, mechanical whispers. The only sound is the steady, artificial beep of the heart monitor and the rhythmic wheeze of the ventilator. Evelyn Vance lies under the thin hospital sheet, her face pale and translucent, looking nothing like the formidable woman who used to grace the covers of Forbes. I stand at the foot of her bed, my arms crossed tightly over my chest, still wearing the scrubs that are stiff with her dried blood. Julian is a shadow in the corner. He hasn't moved for 20 minutes. He stares at his mother, then at me, then back at his mother. His eyes are bloodshot. The arrogance that usually radiates from him like heat has been replaced by a cold, hollow shock. Why? He finally asks. His voice is a rasp, barely audible over the hum of the machinery. Why would you save her after what I did to you? I look at him. I don't feel the surge of anger I expected. I just feel heavy. I feel older than my 34 years. My heart feels like it's been dragged through gravel. Because I'm not a monster, Julian, I say. My voice is flat. And because you were wrong about everything. He flinches as if I've slapped him. He stands up, his legs shaking, and moves closer to the bed. I wasn't wrong. Your father took everything from mine. That merger, it was a slaughter. You signed the papers, Saffron. You stood there in that boardroom and watched my father lose his life's work. You smiled while he broke. I let out a short, bitter laugh that tastes like copper. I walk toward him, stopping only when the plastic guard of the bed is between us. I didn't smile, Julian. I was terrified, I whisper. I lean in, forcing him to look at the dark circles under my eyes. I never wanted that company. I never wanted the shipping lanes or the power. I was 25 years old and finishing my residency. I wanted to save lives, not balance sheets. He shakes his head, his brow furrowed. Then why did you do it? Why did you take over? Because my father had gambled away our family's entire legacy, I say, the words feeling like shards of glass in my throat. He didn't just target your father, he targeted everyone. He told me if I didn't take the CEO position and facilitate that merger, he would go to prison. He told me he'd lose the house, the name, everything. He used my loyalty like a weapon. I wasn't the architect of your father's ruin, Julian. I was the collateral damage. I was a puppet on a string and my father held the shears. Julian's breath hitches. He reaches out to touch the metal rail of the bed, his knuckles white. You never said a word, you just took the hits, you let me believe it was you. I was a daughter, I say simply. And by the time I realized the monster my father actually was, it was too late. Your father was gone. My reputation was tied to the theft. So I played the part. I became the Ice Queen. I thought if I could just make enough money, I could fix the holes in my soul. I look down at my hands. They are steady now, but I can still feel the phantom vibration of the bone saw. I quit medicine because of a night just like this, I tell him. My voice trembles for the first time. 10 years ago, I was an intern. A car accident brought in a family of 4. I worked for 18 hours straight. I saved the parents. I saved the daughter. But I couldn't save the son. He was 6 years old. I felt his heart stop under my palms, and I felt something inside me break. I realized I couldn't handle the weight of being the one who decides who stays and who goes. I couldn't live with the ghosts. I step closer to the monitor, checking the oxygen saturation levels. The numbers are climbing. She's strong. I ran away from the operating room and into the boardroom because I thought numbers couldn't die. I continue, looking Julian in the eye. I thought if I dealt in ships and cargo, no one would ever bleed out on my watch again. But then you came along. You showed me that you can kill a person without ever touching a scalpel. You killed my career. You killed my name. You hunted me until I had nowhere left to hide but this tiny, crumbling clinic in the middle of nowhere. Julian reaches out, his hand hovering near mine on the bed rail. Saffron, I didn't know. I thought I was getting justice. You weren't getting justice, Julian. You were getting even, I snap, pulling my hand away. The movement is sharp. And in your quest for revenge, you almost killed the only person who actually loved you. When they brought her in tonight, I had a choice. I could have walked away. I could have let the ghosts have her. I could have let you feel the exact same emptiness you forced on me. I look at Evelyn's peaceful face. But I looked at her and I didn't see the mother of my enemy, I say. I saw a woman who deserved to wake up. I realized I couldn't let her be the one I lost today. Not because of you, but because of me. Because I am still that girl who wants to save the 6-year-old. I am still a surgeon, Julian, and no matter how hard you tried to bury me, you couldn't kill that part of me. The silence that follows is heavy. Julian looks at me with a profound, terrifying realization dawning in his eyes. He looks like a man who has just realized he's been shooting at a mirror. I destroyed you, he whispers, his voice breaking. I took everything from the only person who could save her. Yes, you did, I say, my voice cold and clear. You ruined my business. You turned the world against me. You left me with nothing but my skills and my conscience. I turn toward the door, my footsteps heavy on the linoleum. She'll wake up in an hour, I say over my shoulder. The nurse will come in to check her vitals. Don't touch the IV line. Saffron, wait, he calls out, taking a step toward me. I stop, but I don't turn around. I feel the exhaustion finally crashing over me, a tidal wave of grief and relief. I'm going to sleep, Julian, I say. For the first time in 10 years, I don't have any new ghosts to carry. I hope you find a way to live with yours. I walk out of the room, leaving him alone in the white light, kneeling beside the woman I saved, surrounded by the wreckage of the war he started. I feel the cold air of the hallway hit my face, and for the first time, the metallic smell of the hospital doesn't make me want to run. It makes me feel alive. I'm Saffron Sterling, 34, and I traded a $1 billion boardroom for a bloody operating table to save the woman whose son tried to bury me alive. The rain drums a rhythmic morning beat against the corrugated metal roof of the clinic. It's been 4 days since the surgery. 4 days since I stood in the white light of the recovery room and told Julian Vance that I was the one who saved his mother. I haven't seen him since. I've spent the hours in a daze, stitching up minor lacerations and cleaning the floors until my knuckles bled. I thought the work would drown out the memory of his face. I was wrong. The bell above the clinic door jingles. I don't look up from the tray of scalpels I'm sterilizing. I expect a local laborer or a mother with a feverish child. But the air in the room changes. It grows heavy. It smells of expensive cologne and damp wool. I feel the hair on my arms stand up. I know that scent. I know the weight of that silence. I turn slowly. Julian is standing by the door. He looks like a man who has been hollowed out from the inside. His tailored suit is gone, replaced by a dark coat that's soaked through at the shoulders. His hair is matted to his forehead, but it's his eyes that stop my breath. They are raw. The whites are webbed with broken red vessels. He looks like he hasn't slept in a week. He looks like he's been weeping for hours. In his hands, he clutches a thick, weathered manila folder. It's stained with water and age. He's gripping it so hard his knuckles are yellow. Saffron, he says. The sound of my name in his mouth is a physical blow. His voice is a jagged shard of glass. It cracks on the second syllable, trailing off into a wet, shuddering breath. He takes a step toward me, and I instinctively reach for the edge of the metal table to steady myself. My heart starts to thrum against my ribs like a trapped bird. Get out, Julian, I whisper. My voice is thin. Your mother is stable. The hospital called me this morning. You have no reason to be here. I have every reason, he rasped. He moves closer, stumbling slightly. He drops the folder onto the exam table between us. It hits the metal with a heavy, final thud. I went back. To the estate, to my father's private vault. I thought I knew everything. I thought I had the truth. He reaches out, his fingers trembling as he flips the folder open. I see old bank statements. I see internal memos from my father's shipping firm. I see letters written in a hand I recognize instantly. My father's elegant, arrogant script. I found these hidden in the false bottom of a ledger, Julian says. He's hyperventilating now. Small, shallow gasps. My father didn't lose the company because of your merger, Saffron. He lost it because your father had been embezzling from the pension fund for a decade. My father found out. He was going to turn your father in. I feel the floor tilt beneath my feet. I stare at the papers. My eyes burn as I read a letter dated 3 weeks before the merger. It's a threat. My father's words, cold and precise. He told Julian's father that if he went to the authorities, he would frame Julian for the fraud. He would use the Vance family name to cover the tracks of the Sterling collapse. You didn't sign those papers to destroy us. Julian chokes out. He collapses into the plastic chair by the wall, his head falling into his hands. His shoulders begin to heave. You signed them because he told you it was the only way to save my family from the scandal he created. You sacrificed your reputation to keep my father out of a legal war he couldn't win. You let me hate you. You let me hunt you down. The sound of his sobbing is guttural. It's a primal sound of a man realizing he's committed an atrocity. I look at the proof of my innocence. The papers I never knew existed, the evidence my father had buried so deep I thought I was the villain too. I felt the 3 years of running, the 3 years of poverty and shame crashing down on me. I didn't just lose my business, I lost my sense of self. I took everything from you, Julian wails. He looks up at me, his face glistening with tears and rain. He reaches for my hand, but I pull back, my chest tight. I destroyed your life's work. I followed you here to finish you off. And while I was trying to kill your soul, you were the only one keeping my mother's heart beating. He slides off the chair and onto his knees on the cold linoleum floor. The sight of Julian Vance, the titan of industry, the man who prided himself on his ruthlessness, kneeling at my feet makes my head spin. I'm sorry, he whispers, the words breaking apart in his throat. Saffron, I am so sorry. I've been a monster. I've been the very thing I thought I was fighting. The apology is loud in the small room. It's louder than the rain. It's louder than the frantic, echoing beat of my heart. I look down at him, at the man who broke me, and for the first time I don't see an enemy. I see a man drowning in the wreckage of his own vengeance. My skin feels electric. My vision blurs. You can't fix this with an apology, Julian, I say. My voice is a low, dangerous vibration. You can't give me back the years. You can't give me back the person I was before you started this war. I know, he says, his forehead touching the floor. I know, but I will spend every breath I have left trying. I stand there, the silence of the clinic pressing in on us, watching the man who ruined me crumble into pieces on the floor I scrubbed by hand. The truth is finally out, but the weight of it feels heavier than the lie ever did. I can finally breathe, but every breath tastes like the ashes of what he burned. I'm Saffron Sterling, 34, and I just turned the wreckage of a blood feud into a skyscraper that touches the clouds. The sun is a blinding, golden weight against my skin. I stand on the edge of the granite plaza, looking up at the glass spire that shouldn't exist. The Thorn Vance headquarters rises 60 stories into the Manhattan skyline, a jagged monument of steel and redemption. The logo, our names intertwined in a minimalist, unbreakable bond, glitters under the midday heat. It's a far cry from the corrugated metal roof of the clinic in the middle of nowhere. It's a far cry from the smell of antiseptic and the sound of Julian Vance sobbing on a linoleum floor. I can feel the vibration of the city beneath my heels. The hum of the traffic, the distant shout of a street vendor, the frantic clicking of 100 cameras behind the velvet rope. They are all here to see the resurrection. They are here to see the woman who was erased come back to claim the horizon. I take a breath. It doesn't catch in my throat anymore. There is no jagged edge of panic, no phantom taste of copper and grief. My lungs feel wide. My chest feels like it's finally big enough to hold my own heart. Julian is standing 3 inches to my right. I don't have to look at him to know he's there. I can feel the heat radiating off his suit. I can hear the steady, rhythmic pace of his breathing. For 2 years, this man has been a shadow of the person who tried to destroy me. He didn't just apologize, he dismantled his life to build mine back up. He spent tens of millions on legal fees to scrub the stains my father left on my name. He stood in front of boards of directors and took the blame for every lie, every manipulated merger, every stone he threw at my glass house. He did the work. He didn't just ask for forgiveness, he earned the right to stand in my orbit again. Are you ready? He asks. His voice is low, a private resonance beneath the roar of the crowd. It's the same voice that used to haunt my nightmares, but today it sounds like an anchor. It sounds like home. I've been ready for 3 years, Julian, I say. I look at my hands. They aren't shaking. They are the hands of a surgeon who saved a dying woman in a storm. They are the hands of a CEO who negotiated a $10 billion merger while the world waited for her to fail. They are strong. They are mine. I feel his movement before I see it. Julian reaches out. His fingers brush against the silk of my sleeve before his palm finds mine. He doesn't grab, he doesn't squeeze, he just holds. His hand is warm, calloused, and steady. The contact sends a jolt through me that has nothing to do with the business and everything to do with the man. In that moment, the last of the ice in my chest cracks. I feel the tension that has lived in my shoulders since I was 24 years old, the weight of my father's sins, the weight of Julian's vengeance, the weight of being a survivor finally dissolve. It's a physical sensation, like a heavy cloak falling away. My posture shifts. I grow an inch taller. I look at him then. His dark hair is windblown and the harsh lines of his face have softened. The predatory glint I used to fear is gone, replaced by a quiet, fierce devotion. He isn't looking at the building. He isn't looking at the cameras. He is looking at me as if I am the only thing in the world that matters. I didn't think we'd make it here, he whispers. I didn't think I deserved to be the one standing next to you. You didn't, I say, my voice steady and honest. But you chose to stay. You chose to fix what was broken instead of just walking away from the mess. I'll spend the rest of my life fixing it, Saffron, if you let me. The promise in his eyes is deeper than any contract we've signed. It's a promise of something permanent. Something that isn't built on spite or debt, but on the terrifying, beautiful reality of who we are when the masks are gone. We are two people who broke each other and found a way to stitch the pieces back together into something stronger than the original. I squeeze his hand back. My fingers lock with his, a silent pact made in the glare of the afternoon sun. Let's go show them what we built, I say. We step forward together. The crowd erupts, a wall of sound that washes over us like a tide. The flashbulbs are like lightning, blinding and chaotic, but I don't flinch. I don't look away. I walk toward the ribbon, toward the microphones, toward the future I fought for in the mud and the blood of that clinic. I am Saffron Sterling. I am a surgeon. I am a titan. And as I stand at the threshold of my new empire, I realize that the greatest victory wasn't taking back my company. It was finding the grace to stop fighting a war that was already over. The sun warms my face, the wind pulls at my hair, and for the first time in my life, I am exactly where I am supposed to be. I am not a ghost. I am not a victim. I am the architect of my own destiny, and the man holding my hand is no longer my enemy. He is my partner. He is my heart. And together, we are going to set the world on fire.